So your voice is not on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome for the first session on Python programming. Today we'll be having introduction to Python programming. In the last few sessions, we had discussed extensively about logic. It's time for us to start off with some serious programming language. You may be wondering when I said serious, a lot of time people feel if we can't do programming in most of the languages, Python is a way out. But that fun way of looking at Python is now a story of past. Today, Python is used for serious development. You'll be surprised as I go ahead with the introduction to know the number and the variety of applications that are today being designed through Python. So the language that we'll start learning first is Python programming language. Now that you already know how to solve the problems, but that was only on a piece of paper. That means we have been doing flowcharts and algorithms. It's time for us to bring them into reality. That means make them really run, make them really execute. For that purpose, we'll have to learn some other programming language. I have intentionally selected Python as the first programming language to begin with. We could have started with some other language as well. But my experience says Python gives you enough confidence so that you can take on the other challenges later. Now, why do I say so? As far as the learning curve goes, Python's learning curve is far more simpler than compared with C or C++ and other things. Although I have a personal opinion, many may not agree to it. I a lot of times say somebody who masters C++, they can master any other language in future. Because there is a lot of low-level working that we have to do when we talk about those languages. That may possibly, or that is not the case when we learn with Python. Python is a language for today's generation. Now, when I use the word today's generation, I mean what will take care of today's requirement. The world has changed, languages have matured, so we also have to adapt to the new frameworks and new platforms and so on. So Python has emerged to be one of the most widely used programming language today. And I'll give the proof of the same today as we go ahead. But there are a few new joinees today in the session. So a quick introduction about myself and about Impetus before we begin with today's introduction to Python programming language. So a very short and a quick introduction before we jump onto Python. Impetus was founded in 1999. And since 1999, we are into training and development. And we have been authorized training center and certification center for variety of technologies, right from Java to Oracle to C++ and today for Python as well. So we have been partners with all these giants. And today we are partners with Python Institute for Python certification as well. And for those who do not know me, I'm Rishikesh. And I'll be conducting this particular program for you. I have 24 plus years of experience when it comes to teaching, programming, and application development. We have some new joinees today. So before we go ahead, a short introduction about yourself, what's your background, so that if I had to bring about some change, while I discuss some topics, I can necessarily bring about the change. Let me see who is new today. I see over here, Pankaj Kumar. Pankaj, can you just unmute yourself and quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. My name is Pankaj Kumar. I'm currently working in Datamatica as an engineer on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have completed my education in as a mechanical engineer.
And what programming background do you have?
Sir, pardon, sir.
What programming background do you have?
Actually, I have learned everything from YouTube. So
Okay.
I have learned Python through YouTube, but I want to go do a deep dive of Python. So I joined this lecture.
So have you, in your professional career, have you coded in Python?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Then we have with us Shantanu. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Shantanu Mandal and I'm working in Datamatica along with Pankaj. And currently I'm SQL developer, working as a SQL developer. And as a Python, I have worked, but not really good at Python. I have just coded few of the scripts required that is to from Google, and as such I don't have any programming background. So to speak about my educational career, I have done mechanical engineering. That's it.
Okay. But you're so very candid that you have whatever coding you have done, you have just taken from Google, search for the answer and you have pasted. So it takes courage to say that. Not many people will say that. So I appreciate your, what do you say, admission about the facts, because this is something which is very important. So once you accept what is the story, where we are, then there's always a scope for improvement. But if you say I know, then the story is over there. Then nobody can help. But if you are open, candid about what is your objective for coming down to learn this particular course, joining this course, then it becomes much more fruitful. Then the mood changes totally. So I appreciate.
Yeah, thank you.
Then we have with us, I saw one more name. We have Sunita. Sunita, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, good evening, sir. Sir, I don't have any background in coding. I'm from finance. I'm MBA Finance and CFA. I'm working as a equity research analyst with a firm, and they are into all this IT and all, and we are creating an algo over there. So my boss encouraged me to join this course, and I think one of the guy who knows you, they have given me your reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. People from domain area are also learning programming language. That actually makes the team more productive, because a domain expert, a CFA, and those kind of people understand the difficulties that the developers are facing. Then probably you all can gel together very well and work meaningfully on a project. So
Okay.
that's great to hear your boss has encouraged you
But
to
sir,
learn
I do not
Python.
have any background. So do you think I will be able to grasp the concepts well, the way here, because most of the people are techies.
Okay.
So that is my like doubt.
Now, willingness is one. And what I would suggest to you is like go through our logic development sessions. And if you can cover up those sessions, that could be good enough for anybody to start programming. So
Okay.
interest and a bit of logic development things. So I would strongly advise you to talk to our counselor and take up logic development session. We just concluded with those. Had you joined a month before, that would have been much more better. But that will give you enough of
But I was
confidence.
waiting since January. Nobody told me that there would be a session. I've been waiting since January, February.
That's very bad.
Python, sir. For
And
Python.
even I joined, I think 1 or 2 days, some logic development in January or February only.
Oh, okay. So I just concluded with logic development session. Let's see how we can work out. So
Okay.
we will cover up those things for you.
So will I get the recording for that?
Yeah, you will definitely get it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Monica, please make a note of it.
Yes, sir.
So sir, can you
Piyusha is there, sir.
if you
Piyusha
can
is new.
provide that link in the group, we may also get
Yeah,
that link.
Monica, talk to all these new joins regarding it after the lecture.
Yes, sir.
Or tomorrow at the community time. Is there any, we have Mr. Ahmed. Ahmed, can you quickly give your introduction?
Sir, my name is Afaq Ahmed,
Okay.
and I'm a mechanical engineer. Now I want to switch the job, so that's why I chose this course.
Are you working?
Yes, sir, I'm working
Okay. And where are you working?
at Bhosri MDC.
And means, what is your job profile currently?
I'm a quality engineer, sir.
Okay, so totally different, totally unrelated.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any programming background?
Yes, sir.
do you have any programming background?
No, sir.
No programming background.
Nothing.
I would
This is
advise you.
basics.
Oh yeah, I would advise you to go in for logic event. So
Okay.
we can meet and we can discuss those things for you.
Okay, okay, sir. Sure, I will meet.
Yes. Piyusha, can you quickly introduce yourself? Piyusha Lingayat, can you just quickly introduce?
Yes, sir. Yes, good evening, everyone.
evening.
My name is Piyusha Lingat, and currently I'm working in Accenture in SAP stream.
Okay.
And I just wanted to learn some any Python, programming language. So I chose Python for that. And I came to know about Impetus from one of my friends who has already learned from Sir.
Okay.
Who has already done Python courses from here.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's
So,
it.
but why did you choose Python? Anybody recommended Python or you made your own choice?
Because like many of my friends also told that it's the basic one, which is also easy to learn. So yeah, that's why I think.
Okay. So what he said is correct, but not the complete story. Okay. It is definitely not the basic one. It is quite serious today. You can make it look basic, but then you can do. It's easy to learn for sure. It's easy to learn for sure. So I told you the learning curve of Python is quite simple as compared to C and C++. The reason for that is it's a language of the next generation. It's a language of 90s when Java came along. It's a language which came in after years of experience that the language designers had designing language. So early generation language like C and C++, they were more near to the machine. And the new generation language are more near to human. So there is a big difference in the thought process as to how to make it simple for programmers code. Okay, so there is a lot of difference in the way we go ahead writing programs over here. Any new joinee over here whose name I did not call out?
Sorry, sir. Actually, my Wi-Fi got disconnected.
Okay. I said you had made a right choice. Python is definitely one of the easiest language to learn, but it's definitely not basic. It's meant for serious developers as well. So somebody who gave you advice was half right. Okay. So gone are the days when we'll say Python is basic. I remember the days when I started learning Python 20 years back. 10 years back, if you would have asked me, I would have said Python is almost a dead language. But last 10 years, we have again seen an emergence of Python. And that's because the hardware, the libraries, everything has, there is a right time for the technology. So now today, Python is a technology of choice. Almost every project you will find Python used here and there. So you'll understand this, why are organizations moving towards Python? There are commercial reasons and there are technological reasons as well. And I'll touch upon all those reasons during this introduction. So
yes, so thank you so much.
Yeah. So this session that we're going to have during introduction is more about sharing information about the world of Python. Then later we'll talk about, for those who have some programming background, for them it will be important because you will understand how Python is different than other languages. And then we'll go ahead with understanding the features of Python. So this introduction will continue for 2 days. And so don't feel like, arey, ye to theory chal raha hai. But unless and until you understand what is special about the technology that you're going to invest your time and money, there is no point in learning the technology or spending time mastering a technology when you're not aware what you can achieve learning it and what you cannot achieve learning it. Both the things should be understood. So why is Python so very popular in the market today is what I talk about. What are the advantages of using Python? What are the limitations of Python? And features. So that will be their course. But before that, let's have a very basic introduction to programming language as such. Although today's presentation is titled Introduction to Python, it is a very basic introduction to Python. So if you have any queries, even over there, please do not hesitate to ask. I appreciate people more than answering the question, the people who ask question. So wherever you are in doubt, or if you do not hear me properly, there are some hindrance in online learning. So do not hesitate to raise your hand and ask. And do not wait for me to complete my topic and then you'll ask your question. While I'm discussing, if you have some queries, if you don't understand something, just raise your hand and say, excuse me, sir. I'll try and answer. If it's the right time, I'll tell you, okay, I'll answer somewhere down the topic. But you have to ask there and there itself. And I personally believe while we are learning languages, your questions to be answered the moment the query is raised in your mind. There is no point in proceeding further with some concerns that you have. So do not hesitate to ask or stop me any number of times and ask any question. And especially those who are not from computing background, don't have that hesitation. Is my question very silly? There is no silly question. Every question has its value. So we have Viraj with us. He is never afraid of asking question. He's not bothered about what others will feel when he asks a question. So I appreciate that thing about Viraj. And same applies to all of you. So don't hesitate. Nobody is here to judge you. I don't want you to judge me, and there is nobody in the classroom to judge anybody else. We are here to learn. And so exchange of information, maybe I may come across some piece of information that you may share that may be new to me. So it's more about sharing, not about learning or teaching. So don't hesitate to ask any question. My promise to you is, as far as the technology goes, 99% I'll answer your questions right away. 1% I leave because you may come across some crazy thing that I may not even have thought about. In that case, I need to go back and look at. But otherwise, 99%, all your queries regarding Python will be answered immediately there and there itself. So there will be nothing like, okay, let me come back to you tomorrow. Unless I don't answer a question, I may not proceed further. Or I'll ask you some time for me. So let's begin with our discussion on introduction to Python. Before I start, if anybody has any questions, especially the new joinees, if you have any questions, please ask. I hope all of you new joiners have their own laptop or a desktop. Is there anybody amongst you who doesn't have a laptop or a desktop? That's a prerequisite. Huh? Okay, so all of you have it, I assume. Second, what softwares are to be installed? I'll be sharing a link with you all. So you have to download and install the softwares. And if you have some difficulty installation, let me know, then I'll demonstrate in the classroom how to install the softwares. Otherwise, the installation is actually very simple. So I'll be sharing the resources with you. The resources in terms of the notes, the textbooks that I want you to have as your reference. Then the Python as a software, okay, and various IDs. Because I may not stick to one ID. I may teach you Python in different environments. So all those environments you should also have. Because who knows, somebody amongst you may go into mechanical, somebody amongst you may go into some, you want to play around with data. Somebody may be doing embedded programming. So there are some tools which are IDs which are specifically designed to assist you to develop applications in some domain. So unless we are not familiar, someone wants to do plotting. So we should know about those tools which are available, the IDs which are available. So I'll be using variety of IDs during this course. I want all of you also to switch to various IDs. As I switch, you should also switch from one platform to another. Reason is, you should not get bogged down if somebody changes the interface. The IDs and other things are only a tool for improving your productivity. You shouldn't feel like, oh, I don't have this ID, so I cannot write code. We will write code without using IDs, and then we'll go in for some IDs. Although everybody has their own preferences, so do I also have my own preferences on some IDs, which I'll use for major part of our course. But in the initial sessions, you'll see me using different IDs. And I want all of you also to be comfortable with different IDEs, integrated development environments, which will be used integrated D development E environment, IDEs, so that whatever infra your organization may have, you should still be comfortable implementing your logic. After end of the day, we are going to write language in code in Python. So it doesn't really matter what is the infra that you have. Even without ID, we should be positioned right. So initial days, I may start with simple notepad, and then I'll switch over to different, at least 4 different IDs will work with in this particular course as we go on. And I'll share all those resources with you. You just have to download and use it. So let's begin with our introduction to Python. Those who have webcams with you all, I request all of you to turn on your cameras. That what happens when you turn on your camera, it's like you're more attentive then. If you have turned off your camera, then that attention span is not there. So it's always better that you turn on your cameras. Here we go. So let's begin with introduction to Python. Now, before we start with introduction to Python, my first question to you is, what is programming language? That's the first question. You are all here to learn programming language. So my question to you is, what is programming language? Yes, anybody would like to make an attempt? What is a programming language? Yes, come on. In your own words. Come on, I want an answer.
Yeah, so can I try, sir?
Yes, please.
Something.
Yes.
So programming language is a language that computer understands. It is just a set of instructions that is given to computer so that they want the computer. So programming language is the language that the computer understands.
Okay, it's the language that the computer understands. Anybody else would like to try?
It's a set of instructions we provide to our machine.
Set of instructions that we provide to our machine. That is
To
a
developer.
program. That is a program, not programming language. Okay. Now look at this.
Sir,
Yes, please.
no, sir. No, sir.
Okay. So what you give? Please, Ashish, go ahead.
Language used to write programs are programming.
Language used to write programs. Okay. Language used to write a programming is a programming language. Okay. Now you have to be very careful because you are from the technical domain, correct? You are programmers. So start, even those all these mechanical guys who have joined today's session for the first time, start calling yourself as a programmer. So unless you do not put that programmer's hat, you will never have that feeling. Huh? So you all are programmers. Accept it very first day. You all are programmers, and you are just trying to improve yourself in this particular area. So when you talk about programming language, currently I'm communicating to you with you. This communication is happening through natural language like English. I could have spoken to you in Hindi as well, provided all of you understand Hindi. I could have spoken with you in Marathi as well, or any other language that you are aware of, and I am also aware. So here, we humans communicate with each other using some natural language. Purpose is, if I want something from you, if I want you to get some work done, I need to pass on a right kind of sentence I have to construct, and instruction has to be given to you, which you should be in a position to understand, and then you will carry out action, or you'll respond to that instruction, whatever instruction that we are given. Similarly, now we have this very intelligent machine with us, a laptop or a desktop, so-called computer, and we want to get some work done from the computer. So I need to talk to the computer in the format that the computer understands. It would not be good enough that suppose we have with us Pankaj Kumar. Pankaj, where are you from?
Sir, I am from Bihar.
You are from Bihar. And how about if I start speaking to you in Marathi?
Sir, maybe I will not understand.
Maybe you will not understand. Okay.
Yes.
If you are here for some years, you may understand certain things. But there must have been a time if somebody would have spoken with you in Marathi, probably that would not make any sense to you.
Yes.
Okay. So if I have to communicate with Pankaj Kumar, then I need to talk to him in the format that Pankaj understands. And only then I can expect Pankaj to get the work done. Similarly, if I have to talk to the computer, we need to talk to the computer in the format that the computer understands. So we have natural language like English, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Kannada for humans to communicate. Now, if I have to communicate with the machine, I definitely need to instruct the machine using a format which that particular machine understands. So if I talk about natural language, your languages have words. Say whatever I'm speaking right now, that's nothing but sequence of words. But the sequence of words are stringed together to create an instruction, a sentence as we call it as, correct? If I just jumble up the words. Will it make any sense? No. Now, how to construct the sentence? There are some rules. What do you call those rules as? In English, in Marathi, grammar. What we call them as grammar. So every language has its own grammar, natural languages. Every language has its own set of vocabulary as well, words. Okay, if I have to tell Rahul, look into the camera. So that command that I have given to the Rahul, the words that I used, look into the camera, then Rahul understood that I have to look into the camera. I could have said, Rahul, stand up. I could have said, Rahul, sit down. Every sentence or every word, stand up, sit down, has a meaning. And that will not have any other meaning. That has a specific meaning. If I say stand up has only one meaning, stand up. So if I say Rahul, stand up, that means Rahul, if he's sitting, he has to stand up. So likewise, what we call them as words in our natural languages, what we call them as the grammar in our natural languages. Similarly, in programming languages, you can draw a parallel between them. The words in our natural language forms the vocabulary of a natural language. ज्याला आपण मराठी शब्द संग्रह म्हणतो. So it forms the vocabulary of a natural language. Likewise, the programming language also has its own set of words. We call them as commands. Okay, and those commands will be used in a particular way. We call it as a syntax. So syntax is nothing but the grammar of programming language, and the commands, or we call them as keywords, are nothing but the vocabulary of the language. And you are not allowed to create a new command. You are nobody to introduce a new word in Marathi or Hindi or English. Whatever set of words which have been given to us, we have to use the same set of words to express our ideas. Whatever grammar has been taught to us or is expected to be used, we have to form the sentences using that grammar, syntax. So programming language is nothing but some rules, which we call as syntax, which will be applied to those commands, what we call them as keywords, words which already has some kind of meaning, to form instructions so that we can fire those instructions to the computer and the computer can get some work done for us. So we can always draw a parallel between the real world and this particular world of computers. So let's understand what exactly is a programming language. It is definitely not a real language like your natural language like Marathi, Hindi that we learn. It's definitely not the natural language. It's something different. So let's have a look at what this Sujata had said. It is commands, correct? So I add to it. Sujata is not just the commands, it's also the grammar as to how to use those commands, how to construct instructions. In English, we say sentences. Here we'll call them as instructions, how to construct those instructions using those language. So it is set of keywords. That means the commands which form the vocabulary of the programming language. And the grammar. Grammar is nothing but the syntax that allows programmer to write instructions that computer can execute. So we need to talk to the machine in the format that the machine understands. For that, we'll be using the set of words, we call them as keywords, and the grammar, that is a syntax. So programming language is definitely not a natural language, it's an artificial language that can be used to control the behavior of the machine. And which machine? I'm not talking about cycle, or I'm not talking about your television, or I'm not talking about your refrigerator, primarily the computer. Rather, not just a computer, you have to be very careful henceforth when I use the word computer, any device. So when I use the word computer, the first thing that comes to our mind is, oh, there is a keyboard, mouse, and a screen that will form our computer. That need not necessarily be the case. Today's world, the computers are like around you everywhere. Probably the wristwatch that you are put on, that is also a computer. It is not that powerful, but that's also a computer. Okay, probably the TV that you have in your house, that's also a computer. Why? Because there is so much of interactive kind of activities that you can carry out with the TV today. It's more than what used to happen in the early days, where some audio and video are the only three things that used to play. Today, there is so much of things that you can do with your computer, with your TV as well. So any device which has a digital heartbeat is a computer for us. Listen to me, right? And Python is a language that can be used for all those variety of devices. So how and why, I'll introduce you in the introduction session itself. So any device with a digital heartbeat, we'll call it as a computer. It may not be powerful, or it could be very, very powerful like supercomputer, but all of them are computers for us. They may not have the traditional structure like keyboard, monitor, aisa har koi zarur nahi hai. So programming language defines the vocabulary and set of grammatical rules for instructing a computer to perform a specific task. So that's the correct definition of a programming language. It defines a vocabulary, that means a set of words, commands. Please make your own notes, and set of grammatical rules. So two important things, the vocabulary and set of grammatical rules. And for what purpose? Not for humans to communicate with each other, for instructing the computer to perform a specific task. So if you want to get some work done from your computer, we need to make use of the vocabulary that the programming language supplies us. We need to make use of the grammatical rules which the language has enforced, so that we can instruct the computer to perform a specific task. That's programming language. You may be wondering, why am I asking some such silly questions? But did you check? What looks very simple, most of us do not have a clarity about it. You as my student, I consider to be, you all to be, or at least at the end of the course, you should be, if you're from a technical domain, you should be very clear about those technical concepts. Should not give answers like what layman's give. Somebody who is not from computer programming background, he may give an answer which a kid may understand. But now you are venturing into this domain, so you have to make use of proper terms. We cannot say programming language, hey, kuch to yaar, jisse hum log na program likhte. Now, those kind of statements are okay for people from non-programming background. But now when you are venturing into it, you have to be very specific about the choice of words that you do. So if you look around today, you'll have so many different programming languages which are there. Some of the names you must have seen, Lisp, with this AI coming in, this is again becoming popular. Fortran, Modula, Pascal, ADA, Basic, Forth, machine language, assembly, Logo. Any idea as to how many different languages are there in the market today? I have listed few. Any idea, anybody? Make a wild guess. Ashfaq, एक आध guess करो कितने languages रहेंगे market में? कितने?
Not good, sir.
नहीं, number of language कितने रहेंगे?
In computer language.
हाँ, computer language, of course. Natural language की बात नहीं कर रहा.
So basically, I know five.
ऐसे number बताओ. Sir, 2 रहेंगे, 4 रहेंगे, कितने रहेंगे?
I think 10 to 15.
10 to 15. Okay. So I had listed down around 10 languages in that picture itself. Okay. Kaustuv, what do you feel?
Sir, more than 100.
More than 100. More than का and less than का है ना. More than फिर मैंने 1000 कहा तो भी सर मैंने तो बराबर कहा था more than 100. Make a choose a number.
Sir, 105.
150. Okay. More than 100. Average really 150. Okay. Anybody wants to make a guess? Come on, make a guess.
Sir, around 1000.
Around 1000 different languages. Okay. You'll be surprised. And Sagar, who's the youngest in the batch, is nearest one when it comes to the answer. There are thousands of languages. You're wondering, sir, क्या joke करे? Thousands of languages थोड़ी ना रहेंगे. It's a way of giving instruction to the computers to get some work done. Almost all universities where some research is being carried out over the period of last 70 years, almost every university has designed some number of programming languages. After all, it's just a way to communicate with the machine. They may all not be popular, but then if I want to get some work done from the machine, there are languages which have been documented. कि ऐसा language था, in this university was used, for this purpose it was used. Definitely, there are around 2000 odd languages which have been over a period designed. But have they been commercially successful? Definitely not. Not all of them have been commercially successful. Some of them have been only for research purpose. Some of them were used only for a specific task. Okay, but there have been n number of languages. People have created languages and documented them as university project as well. So think about it. So it's not just some if I design a language, it would be used by millions of people. No, there are a lot of languages which have been designed over a period of time as a part of academics as well. So there are more than 2000 odd languages which are there. But then we come to somewhere near Kaustuv. Out of that 10% of the language, that means around 200 odd languages are the one which was used by substantial number of people, around 200 odd languages. And amongst them, you'll find around 20-30 languages which have been surviving and which have been growing, and the percentage usage across the global community has been quite high. So from 2000, we have 200 languages which were probably used in a larger extent globally. And amongst them, there are 20-30 languages which have been very widely used throughout the programming community. So there are n number of languages which are there. So there are enough languages, and you don't really have to bother about those different languages. But then each of these languages was designed with some aspect in mind. Believe me, this Lisp, LISP, is one of the earliest languages. Can you see some symbols over here? What is this symbol standing for?
Lambda.
Lambda, very correct. Lambda, you guessed it right. And it is one of the, what do you say, very hot topic of discussion in the programming community today. 1953 ka language, and with the emergence of AI, it is seeing again the language is resurrected from the deathbed se bahar aa gaya, jaise Python bahar aa gaya, वैसे ही. And today, if you are into AI, Lisp is a language that you should know. Why? Because of Lambda and the functional programming concept that it really supported. So you never know which language will become popular when. I told you 10-15 years back, we felt Python is dead, and today we are learning Python. Who thought? I never in my life felt Lisp I would ever like to, would be forced to read and again start learning. Never in my life. Even during the days in 90s, when I started learning programming languages, nobody talked about Lisp. It was a dead language, long time dead. And today with AI, you'll find in every university course where AI is being introduced today, Lisp is making an entry again. Because languages have some specific purpose. They have some kind of features. So that is what we have to learn when you learn a programming language. I was telling Harsh the other day, programming language is not about, sir, many ye problem solve kiya, many wo problem solve kiya. It's like how to solve a problem, ideas that you can have in your mind. But then choosing the right kind of technology is very important for you to solve a specific kind of problem. When can you choose the right technology to solve a particular problem? When you know what support that language, that technology provides you to correctly solve that problem, that to efficiently solve that particular problem. So today, given a problem, you will have 10 different choices of language. आप इससे भी कर सकते हैं, sir, आप इससे भी कर सकते हैं. The initial programs that I may discuss with you all, that can solve almost by using any programming language. Then why use Python? Why to learn Python? Every language, the designer of the language had some use case in their mind, and they have designed the or created that language with some objective, or it addresses to these issues. It fulfills this kind of requirement. So choosing the right language at the right place is very important. But for that, while you learn programming language, don't get bogged down with the syntax. Don't get bogged down with the syntax. Try and understand what is a concept that is special in this language. How is this language structurally different than other languages? Learning one language is never enough. So when you learn a technology, see to it. What is it that it offers me which facilitates the handling of the problem statements that are there? So understand the key features of the language. And best part I'll show you, if we start with Python, it will always tell you what's new in this version. So it will always tell you, okay, what is so special about this version of Python? So while you learn Python today, probably later we'll learn C++ or Java, always check out, find out what is this language providing me that other languages did not provide. But now if Python is the first language, try and identify what is that is so special, that was exciting. Okay, that gave you an opportunity, or that looks like it will help me in those cases. Or ask me, sir, where will this concept help us? To focus more on the concept. Nobody remembers syntax of all the languages. Those are new in programming. You may feel, "Arey sir, क्या याद रखे? सब कुछ याद रखना नहीं होता है." Nobody expects you to memorize everything. It's not about memory. It's about understanding what is the purpose or what kind of feature this language provides. And when you're stuck, you can always look at the documentation and see the syntax. So using the right technology at the right place. But while you're using, if you want to refer to the syntax, nobody's going to tell you like college, university exam papers. बिना देखे आंसर लिखो. अरे syntax तो मैं documentation जाके देख सकता हूँ. But if you choose a wrong technology, then kitna bhi documentation dekho, that's of no use. So making the right selection of technology is something which is very important. You may ask me, sir, क्या company में हमें technology select करने का मौका होता है? Most of the time, it's the architect who will take the decision, but there will be opportunities where you can suggest, where you can actually will have to make those choices amongst alternate technologies which are there. So change your way of learning the language. Don't get bogged down with the syntaxes. Understand the purpose of every construct that I teach you. So try and ask yourself, did I really understand when to use this particular feature? So if you have answers for those, then when that problem comes in front of you, you can correctly use that construct in the language to solve that particular problem. So the way to learn is more important than learning a particular language, because I may teach you 4 or 5 languages, but when you land up into the company, they may have 6 languages. Who knows? So learn to learn. Okay, learn to master the technologies. Okay, so there are a number of programming languages that we have. So when we talk about history of this Python, Guido von Rossum, he invented this Python programming language in 1990s. Okay, early, and that was a part of university project itself. Huh? So you could also create one language on your own. So it's a high-level general purpose programming language for solving on modern computer systems. So with this new age of computing platforms that we have, Python has gained popularity because today's machines are very fast. So we are not really concerned about the performance of the hardware. It is very fast. You have multi-core machines and so on. Something which suits Python. The language and many subunit tools are free. That's very important. You may wonder, why am I talking about this free? And Python programs can run on any operating system. This is a very important topic that I'll be talking about again. First, you don't have to pay any licensing fee for Python. Like if I use C# or VB.NET for some commercial development, product development, which I'm going to sell, I need to purchase some licenses. No licenses. Second, the learning resources are made freely available from the community itself. So you don't have to purchase a textbook also. Although I recommend you some books, but koi compulsion nahi koi aap textbook padhe. Documentation is very well available. There are a lot of examples which have been given in those documentation. And the best part is, say Harsh has Mac, and we found some difficulty when we were doing some shell scripting. कि हर्ष के machine पे कुछ काम नहीं करता था, which was working on everybody else's machine. So those were OS specific commands that were not working on his machine. Python, I am not bothered if Aditya comes down and saying, sir, मेरे पास Mac है, हर्ष कहता है मेरे पास Solaris है, आशीष कहता है मेरे पास Windows है, and पंकज कहता है मेरे पास suppose OS2 है. I am least bothered because what we learn in Python will run on all platforms. So, and how is it made possible? That I'll teach you, or I'll explain you in the introduction itself. So even before we start writing or learning Python, you'll have very good understanding of Python. That's the promise that I'm making. So understanding of Python, not in terms of coding, what it is, how it works, and everything. So you can challenge even Python developers when they start talking some nonsense about Python, because Python is special. A lot of people write code in Python, but don't even know how Python program runs. And you as my student, unless those basics ideas are clear, will not write a single line of instruction. So all the many subunit tools are free, and Python programs can run on any operating system. Very important. So it's operating system independent. So if you talk about Python, okay, what exactly is Python? It's a language, programming language. It's a general purpose programming language, as we call it as. Okay, I forgot to write this. Documentation material can be downloaded from www.python.org. So let's visit this particular site, python.org. Is the browser visible that I have opened?
Yes, sir.
If I type python.org, this is one place that in our course we'll visit almost every day. You have the docs. If I click on docs, there are the docs. If I click on something which is more of an interest, jobs, docs, you have jobs. So you have jobs listing also which are here. And if you're looking out for a job, and all these companies are looking out for Python along with some additional technology, no, just Python is not enough. Huh? With Python, they will ask you something more. Database chahiye, backend chahiye, something. Okay. But in all these jobs, Python is required. Huh? Python developer, male, female, I don't know what is D. Okay, Germany. Backend and web. April 25. Recent jobs there. May 3rd, May 4th. Okay, so there are so many jobs, thousands of jobs which are there. Okay, a huge listing. Worldwide, there is a lot of openings for this. Then I'll tell you about this other tools, other things later. Other important thing is this community, and just watch this video after the session. Okay, they'll tell you about this foundation also, which is there. So python.org. So you can visit for python.org. All the literature that we need in this course. In future, whatever support you require, most of the answers you'll find at python.org. Now talking about what is Python, it is easy to learn. Okay, we accepted that earlier. Powerful general programming language. Now, why do I say powerful? Because it blends procedural, functional, and object-oriented paradigms. You may be wondering, what is this? Let me give you just a brief for you. Now, when I use this term procedural, this was a concept which was introduced in early 60s and 70s with advent of language like C, Fortran, and those set of languages. These languages are the way that we learn logic. That was about procedural way of writing the program. So that is easy for me to explain. So all the logic development sessions that we have conducted, they're all focusing on this procedural way. A few minutes back, I talked about Lisp. It's all about functional way. And I mentioned Java and C++, that's object-oriented way. So while this was in 1960s and 70s, this was post-80 and this is post-2010. So we have the oldest and the newest form of writing programs along with the latest form of writing program. So Python will enable you or give you an opportunity to write the code, Python code, using any style, the procedural way, the functional way, or the object-oriented way. Just to name few languages, object-oriented is like C++, Java, Scala, those are all object-oriented. Procedural like C, Python, and so on. C, Fortran, Pascal, all those things. And functional, maybe something like what Java is trying to achieve today. Okay, so Lisp is a superhero when it comes to functional. Python allows you to write programs in all the style, procedural, style, object-oriented, everything. It has efficient, high-level data structures and simple but effective approach of object-oriented programming. Now, when we learn object-oriented programming, believe me, for those who have learned C++ with me, 15 days we discussed only the concept of object-oriented programming. 15 days, we discussed only the concept of object-oriented programming before we write the first instruction in C++. But these concepts, once they have been understood, to implement them in C++ is a really big challenge. But with Python, it's a very flexible model of implementing object-oriented concepts. It provides you some high-level data structures. So if I'm as a C programmer, and if I have been asked to do some work, sometimes I have to write 20-25 lines of code, or at times even more than that. So it could be somewhere around 150 lines of code when I write. Probably then I will have a concept of list ready to be used. And that could be the case when I'm working with a C language. And that same thing can be done with Python in one line. That means the data structures which we need are readily made available in Python. It's like all the solutions are kept in front of you on the shelf. So you as a Python developer do not have to take efforts to implement those concepts. So I tell Python developers, you are lucky because if there are some ideas, you don't have to implement that idea. If you know that idea is good, solution is ready-made on the shelf. You just have to use it and proceed with your project. So challenge over here in Python, why is it easy? Because challenge for the Python developer is not to implement those ideas, is to select the right idea. Because all the ready-made solutions are available. You just have to select the right thing at right place. But in our course in future, I'll also be teaching you data structures where we'll implement that idea. Then you're wondering, Python will suppose ready-made is, sir, why are we wasting our time? Why are we wasting our time implementing those ideas? Look, if you have implemented that idea, is there any chance of you forgetting that particular idea if you have implemented it? And if none of the ready-made ideas fulfills your requirement, then you should also have that confidence that I can implement my own new idea. That kind of confidence probably Python developers do not get, because It is not a technology that is used to build such libraries. It is a technology which believes that languages have matured. Somebody in the remote corner of the world will implement that idea and give it to us, and we'll just make use of that data structure to solve our problem that is there in front of us. So the approach of a Python developer and a C++ developer is very different. Maybe a C++ developer will think low level. How do I get it done? Python developer will say, okay, if there is a library, how do I solve my business problem? Not bother about how is that library working. Whereas C++ developer will build that library, and Python developer will only use that library to get the work done. And I was telling about, I share with you why companies prefer Python today. Because if a solution is available and if it's tested, from the company's perspective, it is waste of time if you spend time implementing that solution which is already available. Companies would expect to solve the customer's problem. So they will be okay, if that module is there, use it and get the work done. Why spend time writing that particular logic where there exists a possibility that your implementation can go wrong? Who takes that risk? If you have proven solutions which are there in the market, use them and get the work done, solve the customer's problem. And customer is also happy because his problem is resolved within shortest period of time. So customer also gains because come efforts and come cost. And developer ke liye bhi aasan hai. Use it and forget. So in this course, while I teach you the language, many of us were from Shantanu, which company you come from? Shantanu, आपकी कंपनी का नाम क्या है? Shantanu, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm working in Datamatica.
Datamatica.
I'm with Mayuresh Kedari.
Acha, you are with me.
Actually, he has referred.
Okay. So when you talk about the name itself is saying Datamatica, that means they will be doing a lot of data manipulations and so on.
Right, sir.
Okay. Now, if you're doing data manipulations and so on, or working with some form of transforming data, cleaning data, and all those kind of stuff, if you write your own algorithm, it will be very difficult for even the project manager to have that courage to accept your ideas and start using it. But if you have a ready-made library which has been used for last, say, 2 years or 1 year in 10 different projects, and if it's delivering the stuff, you'll rather say, wahi use kar lete hain, proven, rather than taking a chance and asking you to implement something. So in this new, that's how it is. In this new world where deliverables have to be given in shortest possible time to the customer at the least cost, Python is the technology of choice. Where the customer is also happy. So yes, please. You want to share something?
Yeah, so actually we are using a framework that is also written in Python.
Also written in Python. Okay, and you may be using a lot of modules also which have been already implemented by somebody in Python.
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, you were talking about libraries, no?
Yeah, library, because customer is not interested whether you wrote that code or you got some third-party library. He's more interested in his problem being solved. The client के लिए आप solution दे रहे हैं ना? So for the client, you are a solution provider. He's not going to come and ask you, sir, आपने खुद से code लिखा है क्या scratch से या आपने कोई third-party library का इस्तेमाल करके मेरा problem solve किया है? We are a solution provider. We have to solve his problem, and there will be somebody who will write that library for us. So that's.
But sir, what if it is a startup and they will make you write the libraries?
They will not make you. Startups rather will not invest. They don't have the resources to invest in developing like this. ऐसे ही नहीं. Rather, they are the one who make most use of the open source projects and so on, the libraries which are there. Okay. If you
so,
have,
sir, they can borrow from each other, like companies.
Many of these are freely available, so you don't have to borrow.
Okay.
Free to use. So many of them are free to use, and there are licenses which are available. So even if it's paid, it makes sense for you to license, then take a chance to develop and spend 6 months time developing that particular thing. So that's an approach. That doesn't mean you'll never develop anything in Python. You'll write a lot of code in Python as well. But I'm saying thought process is what use whenever it is available. And Python, you'll be surprised to show you. You'll be surprised to see the number of ready-made libraries which have been documented and made available on this. Let me just take you. I told you we'll visit that site very often. So if you just see this index, if I go to python.org, here we'll have something called as at the top. Can you see the PyPI?
Yes, sir.
Python package index as we call it as. जरा इस इंडेक्स में कितने प्रोजेक्ट्स लिस्टेड है पाइथन के साइट पे जरा देखो तो.
Yes, sir. 4.5 lakh.
4.5 lakh. अरे all of them are freely available. अब ये 4.5 लाख में तो आपकी रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफिल टू से टुडे यू वांट टू डू सम वर्क. एग्जांपल लो, बताओ किस में काम करना है. समझो इमेज प्रोसेसिंग पे काम करना है, इमेज को मैनिपुलेट करना है आपको. यू वांट टू डू सर्च, just type here image processing or image. You will have all these projects which are meant for doing something or other with images, image processing, image utilities. चलो ये नहीं करना है आपको, गेम्स के रिलेटेड कुछ करना है. You have all these projects which are related to games. Modules which are available. How many of
So,
them?
sir, can we contribute to that?
If they're open source, you can contribute, but they're definitely free to use. Okay, आप contribute करो ना करो, use करने के लिए तो free है. Almost all of them that have been listed. If you really want to contribute, that's something that all of you are in academics can do. So if you really want to make your resume stand out, make contribution, be a part of those open source development. I can share with you all the links where you can actually start your journey with contribution to open source project. This is where you can start your journey with contribution to open source project. Code Triage, here is where you can go. And if you're really interested, if you really want to make your resume stand out as compared to others, here is where you can do it. Start, but do it once you learn at least one programming language. So I'm just sharing this link. Create an account and keep it ready. Here, I hope you have got that link. codetriage.com. I feel that's one of the best place for anybody to start their journey of contributing to the open source project. And it makes a lot of difference if you have done that contribution. Volunteering, your resume will definitely stand out in the crowd. So seriously think about being a part of it. Okay, codetriage.com. And once you make substantial contribution, you will get some badge, and that counts. So, and that is actually something that you can talk about yourself. What all projects have you contributed on? So those who are thinking about internship, Harsh was talking about internship and so on. The internship can begin even early before you join that particular company. So this is a kind of internship only where you understand how to make a pull request, how to have a GitHub accounts, because you cannot do it without using GitHub. So the workflow that the companies manage, you'll start learning that workflow even before you get into internship or on the floor. All those working class professionals, are you working using GitHub?
Yes, sir.
How often? Every day?
Not every day, but mostly in a week.
Yeah.
When we
But
deploy
if you're into pure programming domain, it'll be every day, every time.
Yes.
Okay, because whatever changes that you make to your code base, you'll have to push it. If some of your colleague makes the changes, you'll have to test it. So almost the entire programming thing works around this GitHub and so on. So make sure that you all visit this codetriage.com. If you don't have your personal account, create your personal account. During this Python course, I'm actually going to force you to have your own accounts, because this time around, I may not share the codes that way. I'll share the code on GitHub itself. So you'll be forced to create an account, download the codes from GitHub, submit your solutions and so on. So make sure that you visit this codetriage.com and just explore. Abhi contribute na karo to kam se kam explore to karo. What is open source? How will it help me? Don't think about it's waste of time. It's actually building your credentials. So we said high effective data structures approach, simple but effective approach to object-oriented programming. Python interpreter and extensive standard libraries are freely available. That is what it is in source or binary form for all major platforms from the Python website. I just showed you. Okay, there were 5,000 projects which are available for, what did we search? Game. There are 1,000 odd projects which are available for image processing. All of them are freely available on the Python website. You have to just go to Python package indexer, PYPI, Python PI package index, PYPI, PYPI. तो याद रखो PYPI हमारे लिए important है during the entire course. Now both Python 2 and 3 have continued to be maintained and developed with a periodic release updates for both. So my generation saw both Python 2 and 3 being popular. You don't really have to worry about it. But then why am I talking about Python 2 while we are going to learn Python 3? Because there are a lot of projects which are developed in Python 2 and are still in use. So if you are not aware of Python 2, you may face difficulty at times. Yes, please.
Sir, Python 2 चे project Python 3 मध्ये use केले जाते?
Some of them may not work because the syntax is different. Okay. So you have to be very careful. Python 2 and Python 3 are not compatible. Okay, let me tell you the story behind it. Python 2 had some syntaxes. And what used to happen in Python 2, that was the time when I started learning. Okay. With every new release, they used to add new feature, but then there was no backward compatibility. And there was no guarantee what works in Python 2.7 will work in Python 2.5. Or work in Python 2.0. No guarantee. Okay. So, what works in Python 2.0 will work in 2.5, no guarantee. Backward compatibility नहीं है, 2.5 का 2.7 में काम करेगा, ये भी नहीं. नया चीज पुराने में ना काम करे, understand. But the older version should work in the new one. That is what we expect. There was no such assurance in Python 2. With Python 3, when it was introduced, they made that particular promise. And what is the promise? That means it will now be 100% backward compatible. In our course, we will probably be working on Python 11 and 12. 12 is about to be released. But every instruction that was written in Python 3.0 will also work on Python 11 and 12. Backward compatible. Purana आज के सारे versions पे काम करेगा. But till where the promise is till Python 3. Before Python 3 का code may or may not work in your program. So you have to be very careful when Rohit asked this question. Will Python 2 will work in 3? It may not, depending on what features have you used in that language, in that particular project. So Python 2 is not compatible. Python 3 is definitely compatible. So Harsh is working on Python 2 3.1. Rahul is working on Python 3.5. And Viraj is working on Python 3.11. And Prithviraj is working on Python 3.12. In 3.12, ये पुराने सारे काम करेंगे without any difficulty. 100% backward compatible. 100% compatible. आपने 10 साल पहले भी अगर Python के 3 में कोई project लिखा रहेगा, that will work in the latest version of Python. But that promise is only till Python 3. Python 2 का ऐसा कोई promise नहीं है. But there are some large projects which are written in Python 2.7. That was one of the most popular versions of Python. And that maintenance will continue for another 10 years. And there is a possibility that you may land up into a project where they're using Python 2.7. So quite a possibility. While Python 20 may become popular, but Python 2.7 ke projects rahe. But it's not that difficult to find out the differences. So I'll not spend my time discussing the differences. You realize it, they are very simple differences. And you will have to probably work on Python 2.7 as well, because that was one of the most popular versions. But Python 3 is backward compatible till Python 3.0. No promise regarding Python 2. Rather, with 1st January 2020, the Python 2 has officially reached end of life. That means there are no further support. Even the Python community will provide for Python 2.0. It is no longer maintained. 2020 से 3 साल हो गए Python 2 को maintain करना. That means no new features being added. If you have some difficulties, the community will not help you. Okay, you are on your own. So Python 2.0 is an old story. Or Python 2 is an old story. We'll be learning Python 3. So the current version of Python 3 is 3.11 that we will learn. Just recently in October 2022, it was released. Before that, we had Python 10, that was the earlier year. Before that, we had Python 9, that was the earlier year. That means almost every year, you have a new version that is being released. 19 में 3.8 आ गया, 18 में 3.7 आ गया था, and 16 में there was 3.6, and 15 में it was 3.5 and so on. So these are some of the recent releases of Python, 5 से लेके 11 तक. Okay, 15 से 22 is good enough distance time, correct? But then Python key story will start from 1990. I just given you the last 6 releases, 3, 6, 7 releases. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 releases. So Python 3.5 भी 2015 का है. Quite an old story. Okay. So if you talk about Python today, since 2001, okay, the highest position that Python got was in 2019 when it was ranked third in all the programming languages. In November 2020, it became second most popular language in the world. And since May 2022, even today, May 23, it is ranked 1 across the globe. The last few years, we have seen drastic or surprising use in popularity of Python. Lowest position that it has been since 2001 was 13th position in 2003. And it has been selected as the language of year for 2007, 10, 18, 20, 21. Look at that recent one, 2018, 2021. I need to check which was in 2022. It is the language of the year. If I go to this Python index, that will give you an idea about the entire story about Python. So let's visit this particular index. There you go. If you go to this Python index, it will show you about all the programming languages. So if you look at this journey of Python, May 2022, it was first. May 2023 is also its first. 13.545 is the rating that this language has. Approximately how popular it is. The next one is C. Very near, very near. So you may be wondering, are C itna purana? Are the lowest rank that C ever had for last 40 years is 3. Third is the lowest rank that C had. And third rank pe gaya and uska lowest hai. Rather, it has always been ranked first or second between C and Java. Now Java has become the third most popular language, but there is not much of difference between them. Huh? And then comes C++. So C++, Java, C, Python are one of the most popular languages across the globe today. And for last 25 years, it was always between C and Java first and C++ third. Python is only a new entrant over here. And if you look at the other language that people tell you that you should be learning, a friend, somebody said he's working on SQL. Look at the popularity. JavaScript, people say you cannot do without Java. Even this course we will be learning Java, but that's just 2.4% of the global share. Okay, people talk about Rust as a replacement for C++, 0.82. और आपका C++ कितना है? 11.96. So it's a long way to go for Rust as well. Then Ruby and whatnot, MATLAB, Swift, Scratch. Okay, there are so many different languages. Let's look at this graph. If you look at the story of Python, just have a look at this Python. So 2002, look at that. In 2002, over here, when Python was 0.99%, that time Java was 24%. Look at the story. C was 20%, and Python ka ratio ki percentage kitna tha? 1.04% and so on. But today, if you talk about this Python, look at the growth that Python has. Look at that. The graph itself tells you story after 2018. देखो क्या हो रहा है? After 2018, Python has climbed like no other language. Look at the growth that Python has. But top rank में आपका ये था. Java देखो हमेशा ये popular है. C है हमेशा on the top floor. 2018 में it dropped, but वापस देखो ऊपर ही है. Then we had this other language like C++, which is with modern C++ becoming popular. It's also gaining popularity again. But these govern the rule market for a very long time. The only serious challenger for them is Python. And Python has like today become the most popular language across the globe. There are so many other languages that you may not even have heard of. Look at that. Here it is given writing till 191, 146, and so on. There are so many different languages. Oh, 2022, the language of the year was C++. Because it has again gained popularity. 22 last year. C++, Python. Look at that. Since 2018, Python. 20 with Python, 21 with Python. And again in 2022, C++ gains momentum. But then it could not dislodge Python from the first position. But it has gained. Look at the gain. 3% ka gain. 3.13% ka popularity में gain in C++. Substantial gain. Well, Python gain 0.75, C 1.76, Java itna hai. Python is still ahead of C++. C and Python में ज़्यादा difference नहीं है. Java में भी नहीं है. C++ is the next competitor now. But C++, Java, these three were the market leaders for a very long time. So it definitely makes sense for us to learn Python. just looking at the popularity of the language across the globe. So if you look at the story, C has been 1 or 2nd position all these years. Java has also been 1 or 2, except early time when it was released in 1996. But 2000 se dekho aap, the lowest position it has is 3. Python dekho 23, फिर 7, फिर 6, 6, 3rd, अभी तो फिर 2nd and 1st. And C++ is also 1985 it was 9th position. But look at the other years. If I take a gap of 5 years, 2nd, 1, 2nd, 3rd, 3, 3, and today it is like 4th since Python came into this picture. So Python is displaced again. So it definitely makes sense if somebody is feeling, will this knowledge of Python help me? Is this skill in demand in the market? Is definitely in demand. So at least वो दिमाग से निकल जाना चाहिए कि Python की जरूरत है क्या, market में opportunities है क्या. There is enough of opportunities. It is the most popular technology in the market today, ranked 1 today. So that's the reason I started with Python as this particular course. Basic चीज है, जब आपसे आपका interest generate करने के लिए discuss कर रहा हूँ. So you don't feel like अरे क्या मैंने सही choice किया है क्या? My friend did he suggest Python to be the right language to learn? That's the reason I'm discussing. So what is, we have discussed this, what is Python? We have finished with this. So we now jump on to features of Python. Before I go ahead with features of Python, anybody has to have any question, ask, query है कुछ, share करना है कुछ? Yes, anybody? I'll share this index also with you all. You can also take your time and have a look at this index. Just for fun sake. So I had shared first code tries.com and now I'm sharing this index with you all. piob.com. Okay. So do visit, just have a look at the PIB index also gives you listing of all the popular tools in that language. So just don't look at language this thing. I also explore tools. And the best part of tools over here is they tell you what is a good thing about the tool, what is a bad thing about the tool. So a lot of information is available on this site, PIOBE. It also talks about clean code. So do visit this site. Okay. So let's jump on to features of Python. It is an interpreted language which can save considerable amount of time during program development because no compilation and linking is necessary. It is an interpreted language, no compilation required, and no linking required. Now, those amongst you who have some programming background, can you tell me anything about what I just said? Compilation, is it really that troublesome aspect? Those who are developers, have you compiled anything in your development projects? Anybody? किसी ने कुछ compilation किया है? Academics में किसने compilation किया है? कोड वगैरह लिखने के बाद compile किया before you run? Yes, anybody? इसमें भी लिखा है C plus Java में.
C programming में तो पहले करते थे.
C program, when you write a program, you go ahead compiling, correct?
Yes, compile then run.
Compile and then you link and then you run and so on. So all those things you have done. C में किया है और
in C++ also
C++
same.
में भी किया है. C++ also requires you to do that. So C requires you to do that. C++ requires you to do that and so on. So let me just show you one small project data structure that I was just implementing in my batch yesterday. So this is a weighted graph that we are implementing. And how many lines of code it is? It's a small code that we have written, 267 lines. And I'm saying it's a very, very small code that we have written. Believe me, from data structure perspective, this code is incomplete for me. So 267 lines of code, that's the implementation. This is my header, which is another 40 odd lines code. And another implementation, that's another 70 lines code. Another implementation, that's another 70 lines code. That means definitely 500 lines code we have written. It's just a 500 lines code. And then we decide to compile this code. So as we decide to compile the code, so it has started compiling that particular code and making use of some IDE to do that. It took 5 seconds to compile 500 lines code. It took 5 seconds to compile 500 lines code. You say, sir, फिर क्या बात है problem? अरे but ratio लगाइए 500 lines code compile करने के, it has taken 5 seconds. And if I have code, average size of an application today is about 1.4 lakh lines. तो कितना समय लगेगा? यही ratio रहे अगर तो. Yes, so let's take a round number, 1.5 lakhs. तो कितने seconds लगेंगे? If 500 lines took you 5 seconds, 5 lakh, 1.5 lakh will take how much? Come on, maths, basic. अरे गायब हो गई, कैमरा ऑफ हो गया क्वेश्चन पूछने पर. कितने सेकंड लगेंगे? 1.5 लाख के 500 lines takes 5 seconds. So 1.5 lakh lines will take how many seconds? Work and time problems. चलो इंटरव्यू देने वाले सारे लोग इंजीनियर्स, मैकेनिकल, एनालिटिकल क्वेश्चंस आएंगे ना एग्जाम में.
1500 sir. 1500 seconds sir.
1500 seconds यानी कितने मिनट्स?
Almost 30 minutes.
Right? So you will have to go for a cup of tea. कॉफी बना के पी के आओगे तब ये कंपाइल ही करते रहेगा. After compile again I have to do linking and link करने के बाद execution. So it's going to take huge amount of time when large applications have been developed. I'll cite example of few of my students. They were working on a project and I remember them telling me they put that project for build at night and till morning the project was still being built. So it takes huge amount of time and then they realize in that millions of lines of code that they have written, there is one line mistake somewhere, semicolon missing, yeah, double quotes nahi dala, kind of thing. And then they make one line change and again have to compile the entire code. Now that's very, very frustrating. Ek line ke liye, if you're going to wait for another 8 hours, 10 hours, just to compile that entire, build that entire project, that's very, very frustrating. Kahin linking mein problem aa jata. That's all the more frustrating. Python doesn't have any such difficulty. You don't even have to compile that particular code. It is an interpreted language. So can you tell me the difference between compilation and compiler and interpreter, if you have heard, if you know about it? Anybody?
सर कंपाइलेशन इज कि पूरा प्रोग्राम कंपाइल होने के बाद रन कर सकते हैं.
Okay, and interpretation is?
अगर इंटरप्रिटेशन में बीच में अगर कोई एरर है तो वो जितने लाइन उसके पहले एरर नहीं है उतना वो रन करता है और उसके बाद वो रन टाइम एरर दिखाता है.
Okay. Okay, that's all correct. What you have said. Okay, but then that needs some more explanation. And I'll keep that answer pending. इसमें थोड़ा सा improvement क्या ला सकते हैं हम लोग? Compilation करता है मतलब आपने कहा क्या? What did you say for compilation?
कंपाइलेशन में कोई एरर होता है किसी भी लाइन में तो पूरा प्रोग्राम रन नहीं होता, वो एरर दिखाता है. पर इंटरप्रिटेशन में जिस लाइन पे एरर है उसके पहले वाले लाइंस पे वो रन करता है और जब तक एरर आएगा तो वो एरर शो करता है.
ओके सर, जिस लाइन तक एरर है वहां तक का प्रोग्राम रन कर जाएगा, करेक्ट?
यस.
एंड कंपाइलेशन में अनलेस देयर इज नो एरर प्रोग्राम रन ही नहीं होगा.
यस.
Hello.
Okay, that's one point. That's correct, but there is something more. Anybody else?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, interpreter takes a single line at a time to
Okay.
execute, and compiler takes whole program.
Okay, that's more refined on what Ashish said. That's it. It needs the entire program. Okay. So entire program आने के लिए, for that program to be linked and to be created into an executable file, that code has to be first translated, then it has to be linked to create an executable file. Then we can run that file. With Python, no such thing. It is interpreted language. It runs on a concept of
Runtime compilation.
edit, compile, run. So it will take that instruction, it will compile that instruction, and it will run that instruction. So one instruction at a time, it will compile, translate. Compilation is translation. So it will compile one instruction at a time and execute that one instruction. And compiler compiles the entire code and then starts with execution. So there's a big difference. Python is interpreted language. So if it is an interpreted language, the way you proceed with the execution of the programs written in interpreted languages is quite different. So what happens over here? There are 5 lines of code that you have written in C language. So it will first check for syntax of all the 5 lines. And as it checks for the syntax, it will also translate that code into machine language so that machine understands all the 5 lines. Once all the 5 lines are translated into a format that the machine understands, then we'll link and then we can execute. I'll explain those steps later. In Python, that's not the case. If it's a 5 lines code that you written, it'll take one line, it'll compile that, translate that line, and everything is okay. It will also execute that line. Then look at the second line, then look at the third line, then the fourth line. If there is something wrong on the fourth line, then it'll stop over here. But till that time, it has at least executed the first 3 lines. So it is edit, compile, run cycle. Compile. Interpreters do not compile. That's a very wrong notion. Interpreters compile, but not the entire source. One line at a time, they'll compile. Compile means translate into a format that the machine understands. It doesn't stop there, it also executes. Compiled language do not get executed directly, you will have to run them. With Python-like language, interpreted language, it will translate one line. If everything is okay, it also execute. If there's an error, it will stop. So that's a big difference between compiled language and interpreted languages. If anybody has any question, please ask them. If you find some terms new, ask me. I'll let you know when I'm going to discuss about them in more details later.
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, so were you saying that Python indirectly checks for the mistakes if you have made in the code, and then it might stop there and won't go further?
Come again?
Sir, does Python check for your mistakes if you have made any, and
And
it
it stops
there?
whenever it identifies mistakes.
Yes, and it won't go ahead if it
No,
is
it won't go ahead. But the point
wrong.
is, if mistake was on line number 100, it will compile the first 99 lines, execute all the 99 lines, and when it 99 means one line at a time, or first line, then second line, third line. And if it come across some error during compilation, then at line number 100 will stop. But before that is already compiled and executed the first 99 lines. C में
Okay,
जब तक 100 के 100 lines compile नहीं होंगे, एक line भी run नहीं होंगे. What the major difference?
Yes, sir.
In Wales? Sunita, you said you are not from computing background. Any query?
So I have basic queries, like you said, there are different kind of programming languages. So I didn't understand what is object-oriented and functional and procedural programming
You
language.
should ask. Don't worry. It's not. There is no question as basic. कोई फालतू question नहीं होता. Every question has its own significance. Say, if you have to, you stay in a house, correct?
Yeah.
But the way the house is constructed here, do you feel the house in Japan also constructed in the same fashion?
No, it could be different.
Do you feel the house in America also constructed in the same fashion?
No, it could be different.
Why? Why? What could be the reason?
Maybe
for it
because
to
of
be
the
different?
environment, the culture.
Correct?
Yeah.
Requirements are different, environment is different, needs are different, correct?
Yeah.
The scenario is different. The 1960s, the kind of scenarios that we are working on. So those are time when we came across these languages which are procedural language, which had some rigid rules, SI karna hai. They were like languages which were, those days it was thought, anybody who has to write a program, they are not like people like you and me. They need to be engineers and they need to be from electronic background, and only they will, who understands the computer architecture, only they can write programs. So they were low level. And they, to make them simple, they introduced this concept of procedural languages. So it was an approach that the language designer is used to design a language. So we as a developer had to use the constructs which that technique provided. And there are some very limited constructs that were provided. What we learned in logic, like sequence, selection, iteration, that means decision making rahega, iterative constructs rahenge. So very basic support was provided those days to the developer for him to design the language. But then in 80s, as we started developing some complex applications, we realized that basic design doesn't help. We needed to have a revolutionary way, a different thought process to manage the complexity, because complexities in 80s started increasing when PC came into picture. PC matlab personal computer jab aa gaya market mein, it was 1980s. Then that computers started appearing on every store, every business place. You started, at least not in households, but har ek dukaan mein the computer aa gaya. Apne yahan late aaya. I'm talking about the other countries. So when they started using computers for application development, commercial, not scientific research, commercial application development, they realized this procedural language was not good enough to address to the complexities that were there. So they thought, let us design a language where we will model real life. जैसे चीजें real life में होते हैं ना, वैसे हमें program लिखने आना चाहिए. So for that, they came with this new idea called as procedural language as to how to write programs. What should be the design of the program? What constructs should it support? What kind of support the language should provide for us to describe the real world thing? Say, if I have to describe you as a person, I'll tell this when we start object-oriented concept again. If I have to describe you, I'll describe you by saying your name, address, phone number, your qualification, all those things. This way of describing a thing, don't mind if I'm calling you thing, this type of describing a thing was available in languages which are procedural language approach. Object-oriented language went one step further. It said, okay, this thing to whom we call it as what her name, Bhageshri Ashfa, what does it do? So everything exists for doing something. Nobody exists for just sake of existing. If something is of an interest because it is providing you some services. So they thought, okay, can we describe, add, combine together the description of the thing and the use of the thing together? And they came with a new idea called as object-oriented concept, where they started describing every object in terms of their structure and in terms of their behavior. यानी कोई भी चीज है ना, बाइक है तो बाइक क्या है और बाइक के साथ क्या कर सकते हैं, दोनों को मिला के they started designing the components of a program, the way we write programs. Then later it was felt, there is too much of code we write. In 2000s we started feeling. So we started feeling, can I write less and do more? Can I write less and do more? And not waste time describing everything in detail like what we are doing, because machines are powerful today, languages are matured, so libraries are ready-made. So the objective is not to build the thing. Objective is to use the thing to get the work done. The approach change ho gaya. So functional programming, when we write, as I was telling my students earlier, when you design even a small function, today's world it says write a lambda. That means one line instruction. That means to do the complex task, they say write one line instruction and get the work finished, get the work done. So that thought process as to how to solve the problem, how to design the solution of the problem, that has been evolving over a period of time. So 60s idea was procedural, 80s idea was object-oriented, and 2020s idea, 2010 onwards, the idea is about functional. All these techniques are enabling developers like you and me to solve problems, but the approaches are totally different. And Python is one such language which gives you an opportunity to write the code in the 60s style, 80s style, even 2010 style. You say Viraj is from 1960s and 17, Ashish is from 1980s and 2000, and Harsh is a developer after post 2000. And all of them want to use Python, possible. That means you can write the code, design the application, the old style, the 80s style, or the 2010 style. Python provides you support for all those programming paradigms. That means different ways of analyzing and solving or designing a solution to a problem. Python enables you to, it's your choice as a developer. What design strategy to be used, that's your choice. Python says, I am available. You use me the way you want to. 60 style, okay. 80 style, okay. 2010 style, okay. Python has support for all those constructs. That is not the case with other language. I cannot use C in functional way. I cannot use Scala in procedural way. Not possible. Languages are rigid. Python is a general purpose language. It's up to you how you want to use that language. Is that okay? Does it answer the question?
Yes, sir. Okay.
So
Thanks.
those programming paradigms are strategies. They are design approach. Design approach is the right word of designing a solution to the problem. So what we are, all those who are there for logic, what we have learned during logic development was the concept of procedural languages. We haven't touched upon object-oriented and functional programming. That I plan to do increase to you during learning languages itself. Because it cannot be done by using flowcharts and pseudocodes, because it makes heavy reliance on ready-made features which are there in the market today, especially the functional programming. And functional programming, theme yaad rakho. Do more, write less. So write less and get more work done. So that's the theme of today's development. Okay, but that does not, and you cannot today develop a program 100% functional way. No, you say sir, functional style is sikhana, ek kyun padha rahe aap aapko? The project will have, wherever possible you will use functional style, wherever possible you use object-oriented style, and at the end you will fall back on procedural style. So don't feel like procedural language techniques are outdated. No, they are still there. We almost in every project, major work will do procedural way. But then if you introduce object-oriented concept wherever it is applicable, if you use functional concept wherever it is applicable, then your program is like the best design today. So we have to today have a combination of all those features, procedural, object, and functional. Python gives you flexibility to use any of those, programming paradigms. Any question? Anybody else?
So the example for all the three types, what are the example? Like functional, you said Python. And object-oriented programming.
Functional, I said Python. I said functional is supported by Python, but Python is not the only language supporting functional. Today, Java is also supporting functional.
Okay.
Lately,
I just wanted few examples like Java and Python.
Lisp is the best example for functional.
Okay.
If I have to categorize Java, today it is functional, but primarily it is object-oriented. It's a language of 90s. Primarily it is object-oriented. Rather, it's 100% object-oriented, almost 100% object-oriented.
Sir,
but they have, yes.
Sir, while we are writing the codes, what I think is we are not writing the codes in only one manner. I think some part of the functional will be also used. Some part of the object-oriented language will be also used. And some part of procedure will also be used. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's how it is. So you don't have one solution that fits all. As a new. So some problems have to be handled in object-oriented way. Some problems have to be handled. Some part of the problems have to be handled in procedural way. Some parts of the problem has to be handled in functional way. So if you are aware of all those constructs, then you can use the right way. But she was asking about examples. So Lisp is the best example for functional programming. For object-oriented programming, the best examples are C++ and Java. And for procedural languages, best example is C. Best examples, if you ask me. Python is such a language which can be used anywhere. Procedural, functional, object-oriented, anywhere.
Sir, only Python?
No, not Python only. Okay, let me tell you Java. Java has to be used object-oriented way or functional way, not the procedural way. Compulsory object-oriented. Compulsory. C++ can be used object-oriented way and procedural way. And to some extent, nowadays, using functional way. But Python में restriction नहीं है. 100% procedural, okay. 100% object-oriented, okay. 100% functional, okay. Python gives you more flexibility than other technologies. So that's the reason Python is quite a technology of choice, because it is not rigid like Java and C++. Rigid है वो languages. Rigid मतलब जैसे यही तरीका है करने का. Python says okay, you can use me whatever way you would like to. Even if you commit mistake, Python will not complain much. C++, Java, they will complain you for smallest of the design problems. Python, adjust kar lega. You'll realize this as you write the code. Any other question, anybody? I have been reminded by madam that we have exceeded the time, and I did not realize. I went a bit slow today, but then tomorrow we will talk more about it. I'll just quickly finish on this point, first slide, and we'll stop. So when we talk about Python, just a minute and we'll stop. We talked about no comparison necessary when linking. It allows you to split your program into modules that can be used in another Python program. Divide and conquer strategy. Large programs are divided into smaller modules. Functions, what we had learned. So if function was a concept that C provided, Python went step further, creating modules, which is collection of functions. And we can use those modules anywhere in your program. That means Ashish, in his project, has solved some problem. To solving that problem, he has designed some module. And Viraj can use the same module that Ashish has developed. Not copy paste, directly reuse. That is what Python will allow you to do. Python supports dynamic typing. Now, what is this dynamic typing? That's the beauty of Python. Huh? Risk bhi hai, beauty bhi hai. But what exactly is dynamic Python? Let me just talk about it and stop for today. Remember in logic, we used to say integer x, yeah, product rate, real product rate, Boolean value is found. That means you are saying this is a variable and it's of this type. That means if I design a variable, module, let me answer this question. Somebody asked the question, what is a module? If I have a bigger program, I'll divide that bigger program into small functions, subprograms, and collection of related subprograms is a module. So like you are doing some printing activity. So print में आपको क्या करना है? Heading set करना है, footer set करना है, margin set करना है. These are different tasks. So why not have all those tasks? Set the left margin, set the right margin, set the header, set the footer. ये सारे जो codes है ना, इनका जो functions रहेगा, उनको इकट्ठा करके एक module बनाया, printing module. And for printing, a page setting module. So if Viraj has designed that module, Harsh can use that module in his project. The module is collection of various elements of the program that can be reused later in other project as well. It's a way we organize the code. It's the way we organize it. It's the way we package the code. That means if I write some code, always think about it, design it in such a way that you or somebody else can reuse your code without copy pasting. You or somebody else should be in a position to use that code without copy pasting. So it is like way of packaging the code so that it is made available for others as well. So that's a module. The module is that one of the fundamental construct of packaging the code. Code को कैसे package कर रहे. So for that we require this concept of modules. Okay, is that okay, Monica?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a mechanism of packaging the code to improve its reusability. That's another way I can put that. Packaging. The last point was dynamic typing. Those who have done any programming language, किसी ने हमारे में से SQL में काम किया है. So if I create a variable of type varchar, okay, I could store some strings into it. But if I create a variable of type integer, who said I'm working in SQL? Somebody mentioned today who is working on SQL.
Yes, sir.
पंकज, मुझे बताइए, आपने varchar का वेरिएबल बनाया है, उसमें रॉ डेटा स्टोर कर सकते हैं?
varchar का वेरिएबल बनाया और
we have raw byte data, raw bytes
raw, हाँ
कर सकते हैं varchar में?
varchar no.
हाँ, varchar 2 SQL में varchar
2 या 2 में आप कर सकते हो.
करेक्ट. तो क्या हम लोग इंटीजर टाइप का डेटा बना के उसमें रॉ बाइट स्टोर कर सकते हैं?
नो नहीं,
नॉट पॉसिबल. इट्स ट्रिक. क्या हम लोग डेसिमल टाइप का डेटा क्रिएट करके क्या उसमें आपका नाम स्टोर कर सकते हैं?
नहीं.
That means you create a container for a specific purpose. This is the one I'm going to store a number. In this I'm going to store a string. In this I'm going to store raw bytes. Then you have to store only that type of data into it, correct? So before we use a variable, variables are like containers in which we hold our data. So somebody asks, what is a variable? It's like a container in which we store the data. So if I create a container for a particular purpose, for storing a particular kind of data, we can store only that kind of data into it. You cannot store something else. So if I create an container to store integers, I can only store integers. But we have to first specify what is the type of the container. So first create a container and then use it. Python says, no, I don't have a problem. If you're storing string into it, it will say this container is of type string. In the same container, if you put integer, it will say now it is integer. In the same thing, if I store a real number, it says now it's a real number. So you don't have to bother about data types over here. It is dynamically typed. Depending on the nature of the data that you are storing in the container, the nature of the container changes dynamically. So dynamic typing. Okay, so if I store integer, as long as it is holding integer, it says this container is for integer. The moment I store a string into it, they'll say this container is for string. So you don't have to predefine variables. You don't have to specify what is the type of the container. Depending on what value you assign, the container's nature will change. That's dynamic typing.
But
and that's
sir,
very different than, yes, please.
But sir, both are not possible, right?
Both are not possible means?
String and integer.
Both are not possible means?
In variable.
Both are possible. That means I
No,
can
no,
create one variable
at the same time.
Yeah. If I want to store your name, I'll say string name. And if I have to store your roll number, I'll say integer roll number.
So, sir, we were naming first while logic that
we were naming, but you also specify data type.
Yes.
Okay, that we don't have to do in Python. In the Python, the variables are coming into existence moment you store value into it. You don't have to think beforehand. मुझे क्या variable चाहिए? जैसे हम लोग logic में, we are first thinking about all the variables that we need.
Yes, sir.
Python में नहीं सोचना है. Python में जब चाहे start using, variable will automatically get created. You don't even have to create a variable. It automatically gets created. That's beauty. And once you create, if you use it for some different purpose, it automatically changes its nature. You don't have to worry. Python is flexible. Dynamically typed means it is not rigid, saying that, oh, this container can store only this type of data. No. The nature of the variable changes depending upon what value you store into it. So depending on the nature of the value that you store into it, the container's type will change automatically. You don't have to specify a integer hai kya, a float hai kya, a string hai kya. You don't have to specify. Although you can, no such compulsion. Is that okay, everybody? Okay, we'll stop over here today. We have far extended our time. We meet tomorrow for
Day
I'll
after
just check.
tomorrow.
Pardon?
Day after tomorrow.
Okay, we meet day after tomorrow. Initial days, we'll just have 2 or 3 sessions this week. We're expecting few more students to join in. So day after tomorrow, for the discussion of the second part of our introduction, we went bit slow. So 2 more sessions for introduction, and you'll have enough understanding of Python, even without not knowing how to code in Python. So that's my promise to you. So any queries, anybody after today's session?
Sir,
Abuli?
sir, is this the पूर्ण Python course? Is this the full Python full stack course?
There is nothing as full course, because nobody knows everything in any language. अगर मैं पढ़ना चाहूँ भी तो मुझे नहीं मालूम पूरा Python after 20 years. So there is nothing. Every course has a syllabus. Syllabus will be shared with you if you want, and you can see if it fits to your requirement. But there is nothing as.
Yeah, because I saw your earlier videos. In that you got 2 like beginners course and master course. Like,
that way. So I'll share the syllabus with you. तो कौन सा आपको join करना है? There you can stop. Means beginners है या complete करना है, whatever. Okay. Yes. This batch is different. This is not a Python, only Python language. It is a career course batch wherein few of you have joined for Python programming. Yes, so this is more of application oriented. So यहाँ approach अलग रहता है as compared to my regular batch. Bhagish has recently completed Python, but even she attends now, she see the difference in more of just the concept and application wise. This is more about application wise learning Python. So here there will be some topics where I'll ask you to read and come, and I'll focus on more on applications so that you get to see and you have that confidence that, okay, I can do something in Python. So there will be slight difference in the approach in this batch. That does not mean I will not take the basics. Right from ABCD will start.
Yes, sir.
Any other question, anybody?
सर पाइथन को बहुत स्लो बोला जाता है क्या?
पाइथन को बहुत
स्लो बोला जाता है.
That's another point that we'll discuss. Slow बोला जाता है या नहीं है तो क्यों है, नहीं है तो कैसे नहीं है. That I'll discuss. That is one of the next point that we'll discuss features. Anybody else? Any other question? Okay, now others know me for a long time. Fresh, those who have joined today means those who are attending my first session, I'd like to hear from you. Did you have any difficulty? What was a good part of the session? Yeah, you want me to slow down, or you want me to take certain things faster? Sunita, Shantanu, and Prityusha, Piyusha, Pankaj, आपसे फीडबैक चाहिए. बाकी लोगों को तो मैं फीडबैक लेते रहता हूँ. पंकज?
ये सर ट्रेस सही था आपका. लाइक मतलब इसी तरह 1-2 सेशन और दे सकते हो क्या? लाइक मींस इंट्रोडक्शन अगर थोड़ा मतलब लाइक मैं सोच रहा हूँ
वो तो यूज हो जाओगे आप. दैट शुड नॉट बी डिफिकल्ट. बट कोई दिक्कत थी आपको?
नो सर, कोई दिक्कत.
पीयूषा?
Yes, sir. The overall session was very good since you started from the basic, which is very important in any other course. So when your basics are clear, so we can do better in the after course, like in the complete course.
Correct. But sometimes people complain me, sir, बहुत slow चल रहा है. So even that's the case, do let me know.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So people tell me, sir, कितनी story बता रहे हैं. But that is necessary, I feel. But if you are bored with that, let me know. Shantanu?
Sir, this was good. And in this introductory session, yeah, I have got few new things to learn. And overall, yeah, I'm good with it.
Normally, what I do is after the session, I ask the takeaways. Today, I'm not asking takeaway because late हो चुका है. Otherwise, I ask everybody what was your takeaway today. कि क्या आपने सीखा है? That I'll be starting after I finish the introduction. Sunita?
So I don't know if pace was fast or slow, but I got the points.
That's enough. That's my objective. वो fast है, slow है, कितना दूर है, आपको समझ में आए, that's the outcome for us.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did not have any difficulty, na?
Sir, whatever I had, I asked you, and like a few technical things, I will search about it.
Don't waste your time search. Ask. That's the easiest way, because Google पे ज़्यादा भरोसा मत करो. If you start searching, it will give 1,000 pages. I can guide you better and tell you what to listen, what to read, and where to read. I can help you out better. So even if it's a serious question, don't. I'm all okay. For those who are here to learn, and those who feel like I'm not from programming background, can I code? I myself, I'm not from programming background. I'm not from programming background, but I have taught in almost all IT companies around Pune. And I'm adjunct professor at University of Pune for post-graduation courses as well, without having any, what do you say, regular courses or certifications or certification I have done, what do you say, university degree in programming. So anybody can learn. You have to have passion and you have to have that willingness. So anybody can learn, anybody can code. So that should not be the reason for having that feeling, can I do it or not? If you want to do it, you can definitely do it. Shantanu? Shantanu?
Yes, sir.
Quick query, kuch doubt?
Sir, for now, no. But yeah, in the meantime, if I have any queries, I'll ask.
Okay. And did you find the pace okay? Could you keep a pace with what I was saying?
Yes.
Okay. So see you day after tomorrow at the same time, all of you. And we'll continue with the introduction. Don't miss the introduction part, because the word introduction bhi hai na, thoda sa misnomer hai. Because this introduction mein, you learn more about application oriented, how Python is to be used. So because a lot of your answers, the best part of Python and the worst of Python, both will understand. You will be in a better position to provide solutions while you are working on Python project based on the introductory session. At least you will know the possibilities that exist. How to do it, that's in the course. But what is possible, you know very early. So don't miss on the introduction. Don't feel sir introduction है क्या है, Python जब शुरू हो जाएगा मैं आ जाऊंगा. वो Python पढ़ने में कोई point नहीं है अगर आपको मालूम नहीं है why is Python good enough. What is it that, what possibilities it provides. Okay, Viraj does not mind me telling the stories. Okay. Okay. So with that note, we'll stop here today. See you day after tomorrow. Take care. Love you all. Bye-bye. I'm here for another 5 minutes. If anybody has any question, you can ask. Session is over for today. Bye-bye.